quack. 12 and after losing to Georgia. I am your host, Adam Chamail.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
That is right. This is the Quack 12 podcast, the most official, unofficial Oregon Ducks podcast on the web footosphere. And Aaron, I just witnessed a miraculous ass-kicking of the UCLA Bruins. I mean, you wouldn't quite think so. I mean, the score was close, kind of, if you didn't watch the game. But
the play wasn't, though.
It was an ass-kicking. Am I right? Yeah.
Adam?
Yes?
They might as well change his name to Chirp Kelly because it was crickets for UCLA, baby.
I like it. Good job.
That's
been the Quack 12 podcast. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week, everybody, with another zinger. Zinger of the week. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. It was hyped. I still felt good. I felt like we had an advantage of it. And the thing that I really walked away with after watching this game was that Dan Lanning and Kenny Dillingham are here to play. Like, I just loved that they knew what kind of game it was. Well, and they went in to win. You know what I mean?
It had so many layers outside of the game of football as to the importance of the way they won that game. The coaching staff in particular, which is that they basically, I feel like, did some, would you say, Chip Kelly related play style?
Well, that was the funny thing.
But maybe like more advanced because Chip Kelly is out of date and old and should retire because he's lazy from all the potato chip.
From all the potato chip.
Chirp Kelly. Okay. I'm sorry, I meant to say Chirp Kelly.
Yeah, Chirp Kelly. I'll tell you this.
Yo.
It really felt like we used to call, obviously, they even said it on GameDay. Like we used to call, well, they danced around it, but we used to call him Big Balls Chip. Like, he went for it, But Dan Lanning definitely was the more aggressive one. Definitely had the quote-unquote bigger, heftier balls in this situation. Mainly because, well, first of all, there was that drive in the, I believe, the third quarter, which seemingly took off like half of the game. Like, it was amazing how long that took. He went for fourth down in, in his own territory twice.
Yeah.
And then there was, of course, the play of the game, which was the onside kick.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing. And then, meanwhile, Chip Kelly is going for field goals. That is very un-big balls, Chip. Continue, though.
It is so... So that's what I mean, right? Is that... Because, I mean, and then you have the crowd chanting at the end, overrated.
That's foolish. I can get into that really quick. Chant overrated is like, we want them to be highly rated because we just beat them.
But.
Yes.
It has more to do with the fact that is being chanted to the guy who was the last person to actually take this team the distance.
I mean, basically. You could say
so. It just kind of shows that
Mark
it's
Helfrich
like,
should take
oh shit, the new guard is here, is what it feels like. It feels like in the ethereal realm.
I get you.
There's like a new lead spirit or whatever.
This is likely, I do believe, the last time we're going to play UCLA. I mean, I should not say that because it's very possible we're going to play them in the Pac-12 championship game. The way it'll work out, like if the top Pac-12 teams all beat the teams they should, then there's a situation. All UCLA would have to do is beat USC, and they're probably facing us.
Then let me ask you this: if that's something then that means that must be something they both know.
Yeah.
And so do you think that's why we saw such wild and aggressive things like an onside kick way early in the
I'll tell
game
you this,
to
Lanning.
just kind of fuck with Chip so that way when we do see them again, he's still not sure what we do?
I think Lanning literally is just being like, our defense is going to have a hard time truly stopping UCLA because they've got a really good and efficient offense. Like they really didn't have the deep threat against us. Like they really weren't connecting on too many deep balls, which is what ultimately like prevented their offense from going fully off. But DTR did just about everything else pretty well, you know. Like
Did he?
pick up, I think so. I think he had a pretty good game.
Though
he almost got picked off a couple of times too. But
exactly.
But so they knew that UCLA was going to be able to score points. And I even heard an interview with Dan Lanning where he was like, we knew what they were doing, on special teams. We always knew there was going to be an onside kick potential. And apparently, like, he was talking to the press and he was being like, some of you saw us practicing this, and we told you if any of you tell anyone, you'll never come in here again, which I thought was really funny. And he's like, so thanks for not telling anybody. And he's all like, yeah. And so we knew it. And he's like, the first time we kicked, it looked really good. And we were thinking about it, like right off the bat. He's like, but we didn't. Second time, it didn't look as good, but it still looked pretty good. But so he didn't go with it. And they're like, and we wanted to do it before bad weather. Because then bad weather adds, a more random kind of component to it. And so he's like, but the third time, it was the worst look of the three. And we still decided to go for it. But
it's a kickoff.
Well, it all depends on, like, what they're showing you. If, like, if the place where you're, like, really looking like we're going to try to place the ball right there, which it looked like just a straight line, in front of the kicker. He's like, if we're going to place the ball right there, then we're sending our two defenders who just flew out there and, like, got enough of the guy. If you see the guy's hips are already out, like he's already looking to go block someone on the other side, or like he's not where the ball's going to be, then it's like, hey, we got a pretty good shot. It all depends on how they line up. But that was amazing because we were, at that point in the game, we had just taken the lead. So it was 17-10. We had scored on that 49-yard pass.
Yep.
That is right, to Troy Franklin. It was a beauty. And then that is when Andrew Boyle does the onside kick, and from then on, like, we march down the field, ends with the Jordan James 2-yard run, and so then we're up like 24-10, and then that's when UCLA, so they have success. They go down the field and they settle for a field goal when it was 4th and 5 at the Oregon 26. That is very un-Big Balls Chip. I think that is really the moment we can circle where it's like one team knew what kind of game it was and one team didn't.
Right.
Well, it helped our defense out so much too, because then you got that lead and UCLA has to be so much more desperate. And when they're going for it on 4th down, it's like, if we don't get this, it is bad news. When we were going for it on 4th down, it's like, we already have a lead, and if we do get this, then, like, oh, man, it's just the pressure cooker is just a little bit more, you know? It was a very fun game.
I don't have as large of a scope as far as input comes, obviously, right?
Yes.
It's you, Hythloday, and then whoever is announcing the game.
Yeah.
That's how I get my my college sports intake.
I think it was Heward, which is pretty funny.
But
anyways,
everything I've ever seen of Chirp Kelly, he seems to be a guy who fails a lot to me. Honestly,
it's so funny.
But hold on,
I guess he does. In a way.
Every time he comes into my radar, it's because he's not performing well. And it seems to be every season he doesn't perform well, and he's a roller coaster ride of, and it never actually, but it's just always going down.
It's certainly not
It's never.
sustainable.
He's never got highs again. It's just down, 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 down.
You are right
Anyway,
that it's certainly not sustainable.
but then the other thing is that, everybody sings the praises of the DTR.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't see anything from him where I was like, this guy, this is your special guy? Like, this is weak sauce at best. We're strong as fuck.
Our defense just showed up. They actually did freaking well, honestly.
I mean, they did amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're going through the game, but I did have a overarching question for you that was something the talking heads brought up that I was like, fuck, that's something that I'd love to learn more about.
You were like, fuck.
Is scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're referring to that, to the coaches like scheduling their game or whatever, is that like a checklist that you want to make sure you get this many X before this time or this many Y's before that?
I'll tell you this.
What do they mean by scheduling? What are you trying to schedule?
I'm not quite sure when they said that or what they're referring to, but I'll tell you, like, game plan. Do you think it was like a game plan or something?
Yeah, they're using the word scheduling, and it means like how they're rolling out the plays, because whoever the guy is that's up in the stands, they were talking about how he's already thinking a few plays ahead.
He's
scheduling out,
dude. This is and like Hythloday's been very, very good at pointing all this out and teaching this. I think it's very fun where it's like, so Kenny Dillingham. So, okay, tell me if this rings true to you.
Okay.
Mario Cristobal's kind of way, it felt, was like, we are a more talented team. Our O-line freaking rules. Just like now, our O-line is like top in the country, like easily competing for it. It is a truly amazing offensive line. Cristobal used to just be like, we're just going to run it down your throat and then do other stuff off of that. But mainly we're just going to be a more physical team. And so, and there was much less disguising or tricking in a lot of his plays,
Okay.
So it'd be like first and second down, he's like much more prone to just like running up the gut or something even, like a more standard kind of just like brutal offensive power kind of run game. And then what Dillingham is doing a lot of times is he'll like be setting up like screens or different kinds of like play actions or like RPOs or stuff like that. Basically, he'll run actually early in the game, he had that quick like screen that almost got like blown up. Like they were even said like, oh, that almost got like picked off even. Like it was definitely probably his worst throw. But like he'll throw the screen to train the defense to be like, oh,
right.
he just threw to the dude like, like shallow, like
this
really quickly.
This is what Hythloday was explaining, the whole like Pavlov vibe. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like Kenny Dillingham does that, and then even to the point where it's like the next game, the next opponent, he's already doing it from the film,
utilizing that to fuck with them.
That. And especially remember that big drive where we were just taking our freaking time. We were acting as if it was the like to ice the game. If we were acting as if it was fourth quarter, we were up by 1 point and there was 2 minutes left in the game because the pace that we were going at.
Yeah.
And but it was really like the third quarter. And we were doing that a lot of like the I formation, which is known as just, like the big like Stanford or like Wisconsin kind of just like big old jumbo boys like close to the line, like package. We're doing that, but we're doing multiple things out of that too. Like I think I heard Hythloday say something like 9 different plays out of that formation. Where Cristobal, like if he were to even go in that formation or something like it, is definitely doing like the same thing to his detriment.
I gotcha. It's like sure. We've got right. I mean, I do that a lot when I play. I mean, one, terrible at Madden, but whenever I play Madden, I normally will only take 2 different offensive stances And it's normally because I like either multiple run plays or run and throwing plays.
Yeah.
So I'm always taking the same stance, but it's could be throwing, it could be running.
Dude, you ever play that online? It's
Fuck
brutal.
no.
I
can't
like
be
whenever I feel confident and then you do that and then like they're audibling and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm going to change my play, and then they do it again. And you're like, okay, I've met my match. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, they no, it gets picked up pretty quick to where if I'm playing a human, like I only play one person and he immediately realizes what's going on and he's always audibling.
Yeah.
But then the other I can't beat a computer like 40% of the time. But so what is okay, long story short, scheduling is basically deciding what's going to happen
Yeah,
4
I think like
plays from the play we're on now.
game management, game planning, that seems like a better word than, but like staying on schedule. I get what he means, but it's also
There it is,
like
staying on schedule. That's how they used it.
it's also like what Hythloday says though, of just like that first play not being a negative play. Because if it's a negative play, 2nd and 12 or something like that, or even 2nd and 10, like you get nothing, or 2nd and 9, then your playbook gets less and, gets more limited. That being said, dude, holy crap, it did not matter how many yards we needed to get the first down. Bo Nix was going to get them. And I love it. It was either going to be Bo Nix or Noah Whittington or Bucky Irving, because our run game, what it came down to, where the real confidence was, where I was like, if this is a shootout, I still think the Ducks are going to win, is our run. We can stop their run game better than they can stop our run game.
Oh, yeah.
And then the onside kick happened, but yeah.
There's the one kid, there's like the one kid who just seems like a bullet.
Bucky Irving.
Maybe.
Buddy.
Oh, it's just all of a sudden he just goes ping, ping.
Mm-hmm. But Noah Whittington is also a great runner. Noah Whittington is also, we got a bunch of great running backs. A plethora of
What are we training these kids to do and at what age?
Well, a lot of them, or the ones that we're talking about here are transfers. Like Bucky Irving.
That's
Minnesota. Right. Yeah, Noah Whittington, Western Kentucky. So, like the coaching staff came in and was just like, who knows? Like, I bet you Travis Dye was like, I'm going to USC. Bye. Like, I'm sure you guys are a great coaching staff. USC sounds more fun right now. I'm closer to home. And by the way, Travis Dye, power to him, honestly, because he's having a great season at USC. He's killing it.
Well,
and they love him there. They like he's going to be a legendary player. Yeah.
Mario Cristobal was so bad he actually made someone leave. Besides himself, the player is like, I can't handle this anymore. It's too
I'm sure
chaotic up there. I need regularity.
Cristobal's having a tough time. Yeah, dude,
Cristobal sucks, dude. Let's face the facts. We were hyped on him, but he's maybe a bummer train.
We should thank him for a few things, which is he recruited like crazy, which really helps us out right now. And not only that, but he was a great offensive line coach.
Okay.
And our whole senior, veteran offensive line right now is intact and is amazing.
Fair. You're right. I'm wrong.
And that's what's made Bo Nix so freaking great. Also,
thank you for clarifying. Great point.
Screw Mario Cristobal. And so glad he's gone. We've definitely upgraded.
Doesn't it feel that way? It feels like, that moment when you realize you've maybe aged out, but then you reconnect with the younger crowd and you're like, you go like, oh shit, I get it. This is the vibe. I feel like that's what we are receiving with this coaching staff, because it's young, fresh thinkers.
Dude, Kenny Dillingham, I think that's a huge, and honestly, because he kind of came up with Dan Lanning, I think that could be a favor. It's maybe he'll stick around. If he gets the Arizona State job, which there's rumors that people are they could be offering him, it's hard to turn down being a head coach when the iron's hot. But it has happened. And like we
But
may be willing
also,
to pay him.
Look, I feel like I see the trajectory here, and the trajectory seems like the goal this season is Rose Bowl. The goal next season is a national championship. That's the goal.
I
I think if
agree.
they could just stick that out, because then the Pac-12 can disseminate and die, and who gives a shit?
That would be great, wouldn't it? Be so like we could just stop college football at that point.
For real.
I
You
don't
know
give
what
a
I
hell.
mean?
Can I tell you this?
Yo.
Not only that, but that was a huge, huge recruiting weekend for us, having all those players there. Oh, dude, we didn't even get into game day. I forgot to mention that I went to game day.
This episode's got so much good content. You were trying to get into the ones and zeros of the game. I'm like, baby, we got overview. Daddy went to game day.
Not only that, but it was such a good recruiting atmosphere. My man, I'm trying not to sneeze right now.
Don't do it. Don't sneeze.
Oh, dear Lord, that was a big sneeze. Sorry,
anyways.
everybody.
I told you not to, and you did
Sorry,
it
everybody.
anyways.
Huge recruiting weekend. We got like a 4-star offensive lineman. Basically off that game is what it felt like. Ayapani Lalaulu. I believe Lalaulu. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why do I know that name?
I'm very well because he's a duck. That's why. And then I do. Oh yeah, that's right. A tight end as well. AJ Pugliano. AJ Pugliano. I bet you it's Pugliano. I should definitely know because where is he from? He's from goddamn North Medford. He went to my high school from Medford, Oregon. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. New favorite player, just like Coda, who also spent some time in Medford, and Brady Breeze as well, and Bill Bowerman. These are the men of Medford, Oregon, just like me. One day I'm
glad we got that list.
This segment is just for me.
Game day, focus.
We got to get to
Tell
game
me about
day.
It.
Should we invite our guest for this conversation?
You know
so
what?
I
can
think talk
he'd have
at
a hoot
them
to hear it too. Let's bring him on. Why not, ladies and gentlemen? Without further ado, Hythloday.
Hey, Hythloday, how's it going, man?
It's doing pretty good. This was a fun game to review. My article just went up.
That game, we were just talking about it. For me personally, the play of the game is the onside kick.
Well, sure. I mean, it steals a possession from UCLA. It's funny. Both of these teams, you probably recall from when we were talking to Michael Hanna. Both of these teams, every time they won the coin flip, they deferred. Like they wanted to get the ball in the second half. And so Michael and I were joking, like, well, this game is just going to come down to the coin flip. Because like both these teams want to win the middle 8, meaning like the last 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. So UCLA wins, and I'm like, oh no. But then Oregon gets basically the last possession of the second quarter, because they go on one of their, famous death drives. Where they squeeze out all the time off the clock, and like the final play is a touchdown. And then UCLA gets the ball for the second half, but then they kick their third field goal of the day. And there's enough time, and so the middle 8 goes 7-3 to Oregon. And so they lost the coin toss, but they still won the middle 8, which is like, that's,
that's
so
having
anyway,
your cake and eating it too, basically.
So like, the onside kick means that, I count garbage time as beginning when Cam McCormick's touchdown gets scored and Oregon goes up by 22 points late in the third quarter, after the death drive. Like that was.
You're
Oregon.
really trying to trademark this. It seems like a death duck drive. Is that a duck death?
Well, I'm making a postmodern philosophy reference, but anyway,
over my head.
Basically, that's Oregon's 6th possession. And it ends with a touchdown that puts the game into garbage time. UCLA only had 4 possessions before that happened, right? Because Oregon took one from them on that onside kick. Technically, they had a 5th, but it was like 1 second long after, that they just kneeled down at the end of the second half or second quarter. That one doesn't really count. But anyway, yeah, 6-4, is a good trade-off when every team scores every time they touch the ball.
And two of those were field goals. Like they settled for field goals.
Three of them.
Like...
3 out of
their
their 4 meaningful possessions, UCLA kicked field goals on 3 of them, which was probably a mistake. Like 2 of them it was 3rd and long or 4th and long situations. So like I get it, but like the one in between was 3rd and 5, and Chip should have gone for it. Like I'm sure in hindsight he's kicking himself.
We mentioned it earlier. Well, we mentioned it earlier, and we said it really, like narrative-wise, it was very funny that it felt like Chip was kind of like deballed in this game, and the balls were ceremoniously handed to Dan Lanning. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like it was the new gods killing the old gods.
Yeah.
I don't like the metaphor.
They even brought it up on game day, which really quickly I should say, this is when I honestly knew the Ducks were going to win. So Hythloday, I went there because I was like, I really want to hold the Quack 12 podcast logo in the air.
I actually saw you on game day. I saw you waving the Quack 12 sign.
There you go. Was it I think I've got the shot here. I know
it was when Herbie was going past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that took a couple hours because I got there because I had heard the rumor. I had heard the rumor that people were being like, "Oh, you should get there like 2 a.m. You're gonna be like seen on TV, basically." Now I made this sign here. It's beautiful. It's just the logo.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Now, how did you make it? Because it looks professional.
I went to like FedEx office. And
not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Absolutely not. Had a great time there though. They could be a sponsor if they wanted to be. And I got that. It's just like printed out on a piece of paper, and I got that laminated, and then I got some basically like I'm kind of forgetting what, just a board at the Duck store actually. Could be a sponsor there too. And I stapled it to the board, and then I put duct tape kind of rims around it.
Duct tape.
Yeah, that's the name of my article.
Also could be a sponsor. Yeah, the name of.
Do you got a screenshot of you on the TV?
Oh yeah, I got it. I'm going through it here.
Pop that baby up.
And so I get there because I saw people there at 2 p.m. the day before.
Gross.
I got a picture of the first 2 people to be there at game day.
Nice.
It was, and the funny thing was, one of them is not wearing duck gear and is holding a sign that says "Stayed up all night for game day," and in fact, he did, I'm sure. But like, the sign doesn't look very good either, too. It just made me laugh that you would get there at 2 p.m. the day before.
One trip to FedEx Kinko's, and suddenly you're a sign chauvinist.
No one's gonna read. No one's gonna be able to read it.
Everybody take a moment and look in the top right-hand corner of this screen.
Yeah. Well, that's
you want logos.
And then here we go. So I finally got the money shot because it became like I got there at 1 a.m. and there was like 300 people there.
Jeez.
And they were like, it was actually the most generic college scene because there's probably like 20 people, like frat guys in togas in front of me.
If you're there at 1 a.m., what are you doing to kill the time?
I had my headphones in. I was listening to podcasts and talking to people around, looking at signs.
Did you ever walk around? Yeah.
No, you got to be in the line. Like I had to be straight up in a line. There was like 300 people there. Toga guys puking all over the place. One of them, even though there was like 12 porta potties like 10 feet away, goes and is pissing on the campus and shit. So it was kind of a scene. That's when I knew we were gonna win, though. And then this is the money shot.
They're like, "Oh, he's pissed on the magic bush. We will win."
You saw it.
Yeah, baby.
I knew when they were clearing it out for the motorcycle that's where I was gonna be able to do it. So that's my little.
Okay, so you looked for that location and you beelined it to get in that spot.
No, so it was crazy. Like, there was a moment where they're like, okay, they're starting to let people in. It was probably like 4 a.m.
Wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. And there was a moment where I could choose. It was like, you either stay in this line with the hopes that maybe you could be in the very back of the pit, which is what I was hoping is like, when they have the shot of just a Corso or Herb Street or something talking, and they have the sign set. Maybe I could get that. Or you can get in front of like the back, but you kind of had to make your decision, and I just had to broke out with the crowd. It was pretty nuts. That crowd was very lit. It actually was pretty fun.
Like a hazy environment at all, if you know what I mean?
No, surprisingly not.
Were people steering it up?
No, this younger generation is not as cool as we once were.
No, they're just doing illegal drugs.
yeah, they're on pills. Weed's no longer cool because now that it's legalized. But I mean, people were wasted. I can tell you that. People were feeling cozy. It was very fun. I even bumped into a fellow podcaster, MF Reed. He's known on Twitter, who just is part of No Truck Stops podcast.
Yeah, shout out to your breakfast with No Truck Stops here. That's awesome.
And I had breakfast with Carlos of No Truck Stops podcast.
And that was after the taping, yeah?
No, that was after the taping. What are you talking about?
After being on live television?
Yeah, so I went from game day right to having breakfast with him. Then he went to watch his team get crushed by the Oregon Ducks. It was beautiful. It was so nice.
I do like that the No Truck Stops podcast has more Oregon representation now than The Athletic does.
Oh, no. I haven't been keeping up with The Athletic. But yeah, that's there you go. I mean, and this podcast is like double that, triple that right now. So that's pretty good. Hythloday.
No.
He has that duck mug, and that's like
I like the colors of your sweatshirt, Aaron.
Thank you.
He's wearing green.
Is that actually an Oregon sweatshirt, or is it just a coincidence?
Coincidence.
Definitely, yeah. Any more thoughts in this game? No. Let's get deeper into this Oregon UCLA game. I don't know. I have
more thoughts about game day, which was that like Sabrina was quite a performer.
Yeah, she was really fun.
A lot of times when they get an athlete on, like I'm honestly kind of worried that they're just going to be like wooden and dead, and like, she was pretty, she was pretty lit up. That was cool. And then there was an actual duck that that tried to escape.
I loved that. Well, I love it too because it was like, I remember thinking, it was like, yeah, we don't do puddles anymore because capturing a duck just to show in front of a giant crowd is cruel. But it's like we kind of just brought it back, even though I'm sure it's a trained duck, it's a Hollywood duck. But it's like, well, the idea is still there. It's still, we have this duck and we're forcing it. But I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed puddles being forced back into show business like King Kong. I loved it. Escaping and everyone being horrified. Also, like, Lee Corso choosing the duck head, like, kind of brought a tear to my eye. That was really nice to see. Classic Corso duck head. I had a great, it seemed like they were pretty genuinely impressed. I mean, it's their job to seem impressed with the crowd that's there. But they seemed pretty stoked. And, like, I've heard a lot of different, like, big, like, I forget his name. I don't know who this dude is, but people seem to really know him. Is his name Pate? Is that his name? He's a SEC
Josh Pate.
There you go. Pate?
Yeah,
I don't know this guy.
He's the one of the podcast / radio guys for 247. He's got a show.
Well, he came to Eugene, and he seemed really impressed with it, too. And, like, Pat I'm really showing myself to not know. Yeah, McAfee, he admitted to, like, smoking trees in Eugene. It made me laugh so hard.
Why wouldn't you?
On his show, he was just like, yeah, I came to Eugene. I saw those trees. I smoked those trees.
Yeah.
He had a great time. Yeah. I don't know. It was a great day, I got to say, even with all the rain everywhere but Autzen. And I love that it wasn't, I mean, I don't think UCLA fans really would have blamed anything on the rain.
What did the campus look like afterwards?
I don't know. I don't think it was trash. There was certainly beer like cans all over the place. But it wasn't like a horrible scene. I'm sure it was cleaned up really quickly. I don't know.
I also like.
Did you bring booze in?
No, I don't drink, but everyone else around me was wasted.
Amazing.
I mean,
Amazing.
Lillis, where they were at, like within maybe 200 feet, there's like 3 bars that open at 4 a.m. Like,
oh my God, really?
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely a whole lot of people that were just being like, the bars were closing out, being like, okay, let's walk 30 yards to join the line to be on game day.
Time out.
Mm-hmm.
A bar opens at 4 a.m. in Eugene, Oregon.
Well, on Saturdays in the fall,
people
like,
really
why wouldn't you? Those people
right?
need,
okay.
Those people need Bloody Marys and country fried steaks, and
so why not just stay open 24 hours?
You can't.
You can't legally.
So you have to close at 2 a.m. and then you can open up at 4 a.m. 2 hours later?
You can open up at 5 a.m., but like, ever since COVID, there's been some little outdoor seating. There's been a little, service through the door. Like, yeah.
Okay.
That's why we got to open the place that opens from 2 to 4.
Yeah. The donut shop.
I mean, honestly,
donut shop / pizzeria.
I go to Dizzy Dean's.
I like that Kirk Herbstreit picked against the Ducks to avoid jinxing it. Like, I'm sure, I'm 100% certain that if like Desmond Howard had picked UCLA, he would have gone with the Ducks. But like, if they go straight across the board, the Ducks are doomed. So he was like, I got to save you guys. I got to pick UCLA.
That's great. I think, I mean, not only the onside kick was definitely very fun to watch. My favorite drive was when that one that seemingly took almost an entire quarter.
Drive. It took half of a quarter. It took 7.5 minutes. Like, yeah, in 15 plays. And it's cool that the onside kick like stole a possession, and that meant that the game was effectively over late in the third quarter, but or at the end of that drive, so like halfway through the third quarter. But when I ran the efficiency numbers after charting it, like, an Oregon win was, absent crazy stuff. You always have to put that asterisk next to it because, like, college football's crazy. There could be, weird, special teams turnovers or whatever. But like, absent that, like, if you just like, if you let this game run, 10 hours long, if there were like 70 quarters of football instead of 4, like, Oregon would have won that game. Like, Oregon's efficiency numbers were better. Oregon's offense versus UCLA's defense was a better matchup than UCLA's offense versus Oregon's defense. And like, not just from the efficiency where it's, only a small advantage, because UCLA's offense was, pretty, from an efficiency perspective, pretty effective against Oregon's defense. But where Oregon was winning the game was, they were getting more chunk yardage plays, and that their yards per play was higher, like significantly higher. So like, Oregon was getting 10.7 yards per attempt in meaningful play, and 36% of them were 15 plus yard gains, which is and UCLA is actually pretty decent at stopping really explosive plays, like 40 plus yard plays. But like, Oregon was effectively attacking, their runs were getting 10 to 14 yards a whole lot, and their passes were getting like 15 to 25 yards a whole lot, and then UCLA would shut them down, so they couldn't like go the entire field in a single play. But Oregon was effectively getting that sort of intermediate range, and so whereas UCLA, even though their efficiency numbers were almost as good as Oregon's in terms of like their success rate, right, like, given the down and distance, they got enough yards to like keep going, and then they get convert and get another fresh set of downs. Their gains were like, they were shorter, right? They were only getting a couple of yards every run because they were having to run through contact all the time, right? Whereas Oregon's runners were getting like 8 yards up the field before anybody touched them. And
like Charbonnet was like a beast and like running through some.
And that was amazing. And I'm sitting there just like screaming and pulling my hair out because like, tackle him. But like, when he's got to do that and they get like 5 yards and convert the first down, like, it kind of, perversely, like obviously what Oregon would have wanted is 3 and outs, right? I'm not saying that they, played a perfect game on defense, far from. But the next best scenario for them defensively is, yeah, they got 5 yards and a first down, and now they got to do this all over again. And now they got to do this all over again. Now they got to do this all over again. So they have to methodically march down the field. And then at the end of a drive that took them 4.5 minutes and 10 plays, they then kick a field goal because they, Oregon, bows up in the red zone. And so now you just took, 4.5 minutes and 10 plays off of the clock to get 3 points, doing it 5 yards at a time. That's the other thing, is in the passing game too. Oregon was limiting to only 6.7 yards per passing attempt, and only 9% of their plays gained 15 yards. So let me repeat that. 36% of Oregon's passes got 15 plus yards. 9% of UCLA's passes got 15 plus yards, right? Oregon was 4 times as likely to get a 15 plus yard passing play as UCLA was. And there's your difference in the game. So if anybody wants to go attack the Oregon defense, sure, there's some room for criticism there, but the net effects was that, Oregon was able to control the tempo, when they had the ball, and moved, more effortlessly. Yeah, that's word. That phrase works. And effectively in the red zone, whereas UCLA would have a similar efficiency rate, but they weren't getting as many points, and it was taking them more time. And they had to fight and claw and struggle just to get 5 yards in conversions. And so the net effect is that, and then when you add the onside kick, so now it's 6 possessions to 4 instead of 5 to 5, okay, well, that's why it's game over. But it would have ultimately resulted in an Oregon win if this was sustained over, 100 quarters of football,
question.
And it came down to Oregon's offense was a little more effective against UCLA's defense than UCLA's offense was effective against Oregon's defense at the end. Go ahead, Aaron.
Was UCLA's, statistically speaking, and talking about that efficiency stuff, was UCLA in this game comparable to the past games of this season, or did we actually bring their numbers down? Does that make sense?
Oh, no. Oregon, in the efficiency game, Oregon's defense performed about as well as UCLA's previous 4 opponents. Those scores there, it's a couple of points here and there, but basically UCLA was as efficient as against Oregon as they have been all year long. However, in the yardage and explosiveness, hold on a second. I actually calculated this and put in my article, so I'm pulling my article. It is in the in yardage. UCLA was getting 2.2 adjusted yards per play less against Oregon than they were against their previous opponents, and UCLA had 10.5 percentage points less frequent explosive plays.
That's basically a first down. Every 4 plays, it's 8 yards. We're stopping first downs kind of.
Well, it's more like it they were getting first downs, but it took them longer to drive down the field. And in a game where time is at a premium, because Oregon's making it a low possession game, that's exactly what you want to force them into. So not only did it work out strategically, but if anybody was oh, this defense was just, tissue paper and UCLA was getting whatever they wanted against them, that's not true. Oregon limited them to 2.2 fewer yards per play, which is a big number. That's a big number. And they're essentially, they were getting explosive plays at about half the rate that they were against previous opponents.
Right.
That was Oregon's strategy. And it's also sort of explains the efficiency numbers, right? Because the way that they were limiting explosive plays was playing the safeties back and playing the linebackers back. So they weren't aggressively crowding the box. So it was easier for them to get those 5-yard plays, but it was much harder for them to get any sort of explosive play. And you saw it every time that Dorian Thompson-Robinson attempted a deep pass, it was hitting the hands of Oregon defenders.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's where Oregon defense allocated their resources. I mean, it would have been nice if the light boxes that they were playing also stopped the run, but they weren't because Charbonnet's like impossible to bring down.
Do you think he's the best running back in the Pac-12? Would you say that?
At that skill, I would say yes.
Yeah, just being a Royce Freeman.
It is difficult to evaluate running backs on different teams because they're all playing behind different offensive lines of varying qualities, and the season's only halfway through, so I haven't really seen everybody against like a comparable set of defensive lines. So I'm not willing to weigh in on that question, but I will weigh in on, I've watched all these different running backs go into tackles, and I can calculate how frequently they break a tackle and get extra yardage, and Charbonnet is at the top of that list.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, to me, Joe Schmo, podcaster dude, he certainly seems like someone who's like could be on an NFL team, maybe, and successfully on an NFL team, because that dude just looks real big and strong. So a lot of people, what's interesting is suddenly a lot of people talking more about like our linebackers' performances in this game. How did they like tally out? How did specifically? I mean, who we're talking about when we say like the linebackers, talking about like, Sewell and Flo.
Sewell, Flo, and Bossa were the significant ones in this game. Sewell played a very good game. He doesn't show up a whole lot, but you could see the ways that UCLA was essentially angling their plays to run away from him. So like they were afraid.
Well, that's showing up right there.
Right. But that's something that you're only, it's a negative, right? It's measuring a negative, which like nobody's going to notice unless you do film study. And guess what? you're talking to the only one. Flo did not.
I hope the Seahawks do it.
Flo had a couple of good plays. I put one of them in my article, but like, he missed on a bunch of stuff. It's really clear that his development is behind, based on missing all the time that he's missed due to injuries. Like, it's just unfortunate, but it's the reality. And then Bossa is, there's one play that picks on him. It's not, he's the guy who gets picked on. And when I say picked on, I mean like he's rubbed by the structure of the play, like he's not able to get over to the wheel route in time. And then Oregon later, corrects it structurally by playing a dime package against that. And then Brian Addison comes down and demolishes that exact same play, or almost exact same play that scored UCLA's only touchdown during meaningful play is a wheel route to Keegan Jones, which actually was a real tendency breaker for UCLA. They were not throwing balls on wheel routes to the running backs at all, or hardly ever this year, and never to Keegan Jones. That was literally his first catch out of the backfield over the last 5 games, at least prior to garbage time anyway. And so, combine that with the rub routes so that Bossa gets, can't get over in time, they get a touchdown out of that. The next time they run it, Oregon's in a dime package. They do the same. There's 2 different motions that are involved. There's a pre-snap motion, which number 0 is coming from Z receiver inside the formation, and the tight ends sort of go out. And Addison recognizes it instantly. He's like, I've seen this before, and he makes a beeline for the running back and clips him. Not clip. That's a penalty. I don't mean that way. He just hits him in the legs, which is where you're supposed to hit him, and brings the dude down instantly. Right. And it's a big stop on third down. It was great. They then go. I believe they converted the fourth down that came after that, but it was like I appreciated seeing that because that was the defense like recognizing and adapting, which was
nice. Cool. Absolutely.
Because like Chip brought out some new stuff. He brought out a formation that he hadn't run before, which was a tackle over play with 2 tight ends, their big wide receiver, and the running back all stacked 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side of the line, and then the left tackle was over to the right. And so that's a tackle over play, which on UCLA's play sheet are called tacos. And so I've been coming up with different a taco with a tight end slicing underneath is a Baja taco. There's Baja under, right?
Nice.
And like Oregon's taco play where they have a tackle over and then they bring in Josh Connerly in as the 6th offensive lineman. I call that the Taco Grande play.
Nice.
And the one where it's taco, but then you stack a bunch of 4 dudes, 1, 2, 3, 4 on top of each other. I'm calling that one the Gordita Crunch. Because that's the one at Taco Bell where it's like a hard taco wrapped in a soft taco.
Right. Oh, we know. Taco Bell, you could be a sponsor.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's a lot of sponsors for this podcast that are possibilities.
Oh my God, I would so glad.
Question about Flo.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say his underperformance is because he's not progressing physically, or would you
No.
say it's because he's misreading?
It's football IQ stuff. It's just sort of it's experience. It's just the sort of stuff that you pick up playing at a high level of college. Like his entire career, he's been the most physically gifted human being on the field. And a lot of times with guys who are at a high school like that, it's like it takes some time to refine their play, because like all of a sudden they're playing against dudes who are on their level physically.
Right.
And like, so it requires like, no, you should tackle that guy low, not high, or you can't, come at that dude a million miles an hour, because he's going to make one slight little move inside and you're going to go flying past him. It's like, and when I say football IQ, I don't mean that he's not an intelligent person. I'm sure that he is. What I mean is just it's sort of, it's on the job experience, like,
it's a steep learning curve based off of, it's like you always want to play against someone better than you.
Yeah.
And it's split second decisions too.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and so like he's just missed so much time in 2020 and in 2021 that Noah Sewell was getting. That like, so they came in at the same time with basically the same star rating. I think Justin Flo is actually physically more gifted than Noah Sewell, but Noah Sewell is way ahead of him in terms of value on the field as a linebacker.
The amount of playing time he's had.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
But that seems like it's also not the worst news, right? Because that's something he could get better at over the season, to where he's really
even though he's going to be
eligible, some cupcakes on the schedule coming up.
Yeah, right. Even though he's eligible to go to the NFL at the end of this year, I actually would not be surprised if what happens is if Noah Sewell declares early, but Justin Flo decides to come back and play another year. Because I really do think he would probably improve his draft stock if he did that.
It would make a lot of sense.
Okay. Well, that's good news. I was concerned it was irreparable. Like we've seen a ceiling and this is it.
It may be like, this just happens. Like I follow the rule of thirds, like any given pool of recruits, a third of them are going to work out for you and be great players, like Noah Sewell is. A third of them are going to be like backups, or, they're going to be somewhere in between. You'll get a good year out of them and then they'll get injured, or then they transfer, or they're just a lifelong backup. They never really rise to starter position, but they're serviceable. And then the final third of them are just going to wash out. They're just going to be busts. Like, and it happens, and you just got to live with it. And when you're doing like analysis of other teams' rosters or your own team's roster, you just gotta understand that like that's just gonna happen, and you should only be like ringing the alarm bell if it's if the bust rate is higher than expected. So like you see all the time people on Twitter who are like, oh man, you got this 5-star and he didn't work out for you, you guys must suck. And it's just like, that's a single example. Get out of here with that. Like, did you not take a stats class? Like, and the answer usually is yes, because
there's three of us and we're not all bust.
Literally, your analysis. Here it is. Here's the 3 levels.
Shit, we proved the rule, didn't we?
All right.
Hey, good news though. It's the end. We are in a movie. We are in Footloose, and we're at the end of Footloose, where John Lithgow is deciding maybe you can dance and not have it being an insult to God.
Yeah. Dan Lanning Pan's dance ban.
Yeah, that should really be the headline there. And it felt like the perfect time to bring it back, of just like, you've got to, it felt like a smart coach move, where it's like honestly rewarding the crowd, because like that game day environment,
and then they earned it. Yeah.
And they earned it. And was a mistake. It was like the penalties were all pretty forgivable, or like,
how long was it
pretty,
gone?
Not many.
It was only for
one
game.
That one game,
right?
Because Oregon's been playing on the road a lot.
Use the term "bring it back."
It was gone.
Yeah, they were on the road to Wazoo, and then they were at home against Stanford, and that was the penalty game. And Lanning was like, "Oh, I don't like this." Oh, and he also didn't like some of the things that were happening right after the third quarter at BYU, which was their previous home game. So then they go on the road again to Arizona. No dancing in Arizona. They're all,
they actually banned it,
and it was an empty stadium by the third quarter. So what would you even dance to? And then they had the bye week, so this was their first week back at home after the proposed dance ban So like,
So we never actually saw a dance band. It
yeah,
never
exactly.
happened.
His heart grew
one
3
week
sizes.
where there was a dance band. Yes, the one game.
There was a hypothetical dance band, but then but then before it could go into effect, his heart was flattened.
No one has danced in Eugene since that band. Like the people of Eugene, I should say that. I'm living here. I've witnessed it. I'm in the dance clubs every night, and everyone's refusing to. Hythloday,
the salsa was silent that night.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. The rest of UCLA's schedule, they're going versus Stanford, at ASU, versus Arizona, versus USC. That's the big one. At Cal. Do you think? Let's say I'm going to take the hypothetical out for Oregon. I'm just going to say, let's not knock on wood, we make it to the Pac-12 championship game. Do you think, if you were a betting man, would you put your money on UCLA being the opponent?
In
Vegas?
No, I would put my money on USC being the opponent.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It comes down to that game.
I mean, I don't think any of them cross over the 50% mark. Like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but like, if USC wins that game, then USC's in, because USC schedule is real light. And
they've never disappointed before.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather have that, because just to get like both traders on the schedule, and if we beat both of them, it would feel real. I mean, to beat
it would be kind of perfect. Yeah, and
yeah.
All right. Yeah, I always enjoy playing a new team rather than a retread.
It'd be great. And it's still the same thing of like, can they stop the run?
I guess I'll put it this way.
Okay.
Even though USC's not on the schedule for Oregon, I've been collecting all their film.
Yeah. Yeah. So might as well use it. Any last thoughts on this wonderful, wonderful game, y'all?
Well, let's see. There was a couple interesting I've been kind of geeking out about the I formation that Oregon's been running. Going into this game, they had run 7 different plays out of it. So inside power, outside power, quarterback sneak, fullback dive, a little leak out that Cam McCormick scored a touchdown on against Wazoo, a bootleg that turned into a scramble against Stanford, and then that sweep motion to Matavau that they scored a touchdown against Arizona. In this game, they added 2 more. They added a fullback wheel that Patrick Herbert caught for a big first down. And then in garbage time, they ran a bootleg to a tight end out. I think it was Ferguson who caught that ball. So yeah, they're up to 9 different plays that they've run out of the I formation, and they've added, ever since they started using the I, they've added 1 to 2 plays every game. So I'm just looking forward to, by the end of the season, they're running like 12.5 plays out of the I.
like Bucky Irving passes to Bo Nix for a touchdown out of the I. That's what I'm expecting.
Oh, that would be sick.
I don't know how.
Just run some trick plays out of the I. Yeah. Apparently Chip Kelly was quoted as saying, like, Oregon didn't do anything really new. Like, we were, they didn't do anything that we didn't expect in practice against. And
really,
yeah. And somebody asked me, on Twitter, like, is that true? And I said, yeah, it's basically correct. Like, there are some wrinkles, that they added, like I just mentioned, but like, they're all things that you can extract. Like, it's not like, Oregon ran totally new stuff. They would run the same formation and then they'd, use it a little differently. But those are all things that defenses have to be able to extrapolate. So, like, I'm sure that Chip Kelly is correct that they were like, okay, so one possibility they could do is this fullback wheel. So we have to know how to cover that. And then they just didn't do it. Like on that play, they just didn't do it. The safety was just staring in the backfield, expecting a run, and the dude he's supposed to cover runs right past him. So, like, Chip's indicting the execution of his players in that sense. And
he's either talking shit on his players, or he just doesn't give a fuck that he's not good at coaching.
I think he's being real. He's like, yeah, they didn't do that much. It's just they were the better team. We played an Autzen They truly have more talent on their team and the roster's better.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, I mean that's the thing that shows up. Like when you do the charting and you sort of like pull out the all the other stuff, you know, and you just like throw all the numbers up in the air, is you find that like it's not that UCLA is a bad team. I don't think they are, you know, a bad team. But like Oregon was a better team. Or this is okay. So this I got to be real careful with the comparison I'm about to make. Remember when Oregon played Georgia, and Oregon and everybody sort of accurately after that game said, you know what, Oregon was actually moving the ball fairly, you know, well. They were just, you know, there was some turnovers and they weren't finishing drives. They had to settle for field goal that one time, but like, and then even Kirby Smart, the Georgia coach, at the end of the game was like, we never really stopped them, not stopped them. You know, and then on the other hand, Georgia's offense was just so effective against Oregon's defense that they turned that game into garbage time super fast. And at that point, you know, Oregon's offense becomes one-dimensional and becomes sort of a runaway effect. So watching this game, and again, I gotta be really careful about this comparison because I'm not saying that Oregon is Georgia, but like Oregon did to UCLA what Georgia did to Oregon, in the sense of like UCLA was moving the ball, but they weren't converting them into touchdowns, and it was taking a long time. And then their UCLA's defense was getting so shredded by Oregon's offense. Now, UCLA's defense was not shredded by Oregon's offense as effectively as Oregon's defense was shredded by Georgia's offense, but nonetheless, they were getting to some extent shredded by Oregon's offense effectively enough that like, and then the game was over, you know. Jesus, Adam.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it like, and like, remember how you felt watching the Georgia game? That must be how UCLA fans, you know, felt watching. It's like, we're moving the ball, but we're not getting points, and they're just killing us on offense. We can't stop anything that they're doing. Oh, they hit another explosive play. Like, God, that must have been torture for UCLA fans. They'll dry their eyes with big $10, I guess, but like, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get we got to get the W's over the traders while we can. I got this message through our website, the quack12podcast.com website, from a Mr. Doug Mass. All right. He says, "Hey guys, I'm a Buffs fan, and I ended up I'll edit over. Maybe he doesn't want his name shared. So I'll have a little bleep or a quack over there. Hey guys, I'm a Buffs fan, and I ended up talking trash on the Ducks before the season started. I ended up in a bet, and if the Ducks win over my Buffs this week, which is not really possible because they play in 2 weeks, I will have to get my head shaved and painted. I really had believed that we would have a breakout season this year, so not looking good for my team, and I'm supposed to reach out and let you guys know about this." I don't know why we were chosen for this, but
because we are the Oregon Ducks, my dude.
Is this something you'd want to cover on your podcast? I'm answering
let's
this
cover
email by saying it on here. I don't know. We're not like stepping up to your bet. We're not going to do any of this shit.
No, here it is. This is what I'm going to cover.
You could display the shaved and painted head.
We would gladly do that.
What I'm going to cover is his new shiny dome in green and yellow, baby.
Yeah, we'll do it for you if you drive up to Seattle.
I did that years ago or a couple of years ago on the podcast of Champions when I was still writing into it, where Shane made a comment about, you know, Justin Herbert's not going to win any road games in 2019. You know, that quarterback sucks and they can't play on the road. And then Oregon goes and wins all the road games. So this statement that Shane made was like 7 months prior, but I of course immediately made a Google Calendar alert. And so yeah, so they read this on the book. It's like, boy, you're vicious, dude. I was like, yeah.
He said awesome. He said it. That's.
Honestly, accountability is sorely lacking in this industry. It was really, so I wrote my UCLA preview on Friday, and as often happens, it leaks out to, it winds up on some a Bruin fan board, and they're tearing it. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's like, he doesn't understand football at all. And how do these are all cherry picked clips. Like you could find,
they always say that for you.
Yeah,
that is always the funniest thing.
Yeah, and and it's just so I don't know. Like I debated whether, so I for anybody who reads my article this morning, recapping the game, I slipped the link in to that little forum discussion for anybody who wants to check it out.
So salty. I love it.
Yeah.
I cheesed off a TCU person, which I thought was really lovely.
Oh, yeah. They called Aaron a heathen. They wrote into our website, too. So they're probably of a certain age. But, yeah, that was very funny. We had someone...
Look!
Over on the Addicted to Quack Twitter account, too. I remember there's just like... I think the Ducks are at a spot right now where they're kind of hard to shit talk. Because so many people try to bring up like the Georgia loss, like it's gonna hurt someone's feelings, and it's like, dude, that was week 1. We're looking great right now.
It feels like every Oregon fan has processed it. It's just like you're not gonna find any live nerves, going after that.
Absolutely not. The thing someone also said like, are you enjoying your QB for hire? And I was like, yes, absolutely. We're having a great
10
time.
out of 12 Pac-12 teams who have transfer quarterbacks. Like,
yeah, I mean,
who gets the only 2 teams who get to make that shit talk are Stanford and UCLA.
Yeah, and it's like 2022. It's 2022. This is the year. Like, what are you talking about?
The shit talk that I always enjoy. It's definitely the most consistent one that I get is being called arrogant. Like. Which I guess arrogance is like when you make statements about another team which are informed by charting and statistical analysis. I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's not arrogance if you're right.
There was this. I remember this. This was a bit of a salty tweet for me to have, especially mid game. This is 1:46 p.m. So yeah, it's like an hour into the game. No, this is an hour and a half. So like halftime, I probably wrote that. I said, watch DTR melt in the rain like he's the Wicked Witch of Westwood. And then someone said,
clever pun.
Yeah, there you go. Right. And then someone said they remind me of this, which is apparently a site, Twitter account that will remind you, like a clock. He said, remind me of this in 2 hours. And it was like, that's confident as hell in that game at halftime to be like, oh no!
I mean, I was worried.
Like that's a diehard fan, I guess.
I was. I mean, it was my number one worry going into the game. It was my number one worry during the game. Was like, all no lead is secure when you have a quarterback who can play at that level. I mean, he's a 5th-year starter. He played it, given the way that the Ducks defense were playing and given how well Oregon's offense was like limiting his time with the ball, like he did about as well as you could expect. I mean, really the thing. So after the game, he makes this statement, that it was sort of like the Jameis Winston statement after the Rose Bowl. That was like, I know we got run out of the stadium, but I feel like if we played at our level that we would they couldn't have even competed with us. And it's, so everybody gets a good chuckle out of that, but like, what I somebody asked me about that. And basically I said, the thing that more than anything else, when UCLA had the ball that sealed their fate was that they kept settling for field goals. They kicked those 3 field goals on their 4, red zone trips. And so then I was like, okay, so why did they kick those field goals? And so I looked at the 3 plays prior to each field goal. And I think I would say like 7 of those 9 plays, right? The 3 plays prior to the 3 field goals. So 7 of those 9 plays, I would say it's the offensive line had a problem, like they committed a holding penalty, or they didn't pick up a blitz, or they didn't, open that they allowed a tackle for loss on a run, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so really I felt like more than anything else, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was calling out UCLA's offensive line, when he was saying we should, if we were playing better. I think the we that he was referring to was not really himself, but rather his offensive line, and which was really,
Understand?
Man,
Yeah.
I wrote a whole article about like UCLA's offensive line is the problem with their offense. It creates this problem, this problem, this problem. And like that was the thing that those UCLA fans on that board, I keep coming back to it. I guess they got under my skin. But that's what they were like. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It was like, this offensive line is phenomenal. I'm like, no, it's not. And you thinking that is going to get you in trouble. And here's Dorian Thompson-Robinson calling him out after the game. And, y'all are going home crying. So, somebody owes me an apology. I mean, not really. Nobody.
I love it.
Well,
I love it.
But I mean, I nailed it, dude. Like, that this was their offensive line was going to get them into trouble. For this, that, and the other reason. I think that came true, and I think that's sort of the turning point in terms of the UCLA's offense. And if they were going to win the game, it had to be through their offense. So therefore, that was the most salient fact about this game, and it was nailed by yours truly.
Get him,
but not arrogant.
Not arrogant.
It's not arrogance if you're right.
Not arrogant if you're right. There you go. I love it. Well, let's see how arrogant Aaron can be this week.
Oh,
by
shit.
jumping into our next segment, which is, of course, the Bottom 11.
Bottom 11.
The Bottom 11, where we go through, well, the Ducks are at the very top. Sometimes, on many seasons, that was kind of just a joke, we would say. It was like in our hearts, they're number one in the Pac-12.
Always.
But right now, oh yeah, baby, they are number one with the bullet. Hard to argue against, especially when you take down the number 9 UCLA Bruins. What a game. Of course, Aaron and I both chose the Ducks. Because, I mean, come on. It's called the Quack 12. It's called the Quack 12.
Remind me what the score is. I'm down by 5?
You were, okay, so entering this week, I had 39. You had 33, so you're down 6. There's only 4 games this last week, so Oregon we both chose. I chose Arizona State. You chose Stanford. I'm not going to lie. I was tired after game day and doing a bunch of stuff. I remember watching this game and kind of dozing. A lot of these games I straight up didn't watch. One of them.
There's only 3 of them.
There's only 3. I was a sleepy boy. I watched one of them. This was not that game. Arizona versus State versus Stanford. I watched the end of this. I believe it was like the kicker was the MVP for Stanford, that's for sure. I think he scored all the points.
Yes, it was
5.
five.
No, this doesn't sound good for me.
5 field goals, no other scores.
Well,
Wow.
Aaron, surprisingly, you went with Stanford, and with those 5 field goals, that was enough to win the game against Arizona State.
Arizona State was getting touchdowns. Stanford was getting field goals, and Stanford still won.
And
Amazing.
Arizona State, at the same time, Stanford does not come out of this looking like it was a hard win, but it was a good win. Because, like,
oh no,
they
Arizona State
almost lost exactly the way they lost. Not exactly, because that is a 1 in a billion thing, but basically the exact same way they lost.
No, it was
Oregon
pretty
State.
close. It was
Pretty
really
freaking
like if
similar.
the ASU receiver took the wrong leverage on the ball, if he played that better, that was a touchdown. Arizona State wins on a last second pass. Like
Yeah.
it would have
Wow.
been identical or not.
That's
amazing.
hilarious.
Like Stanford's
right.
shit, and they're still gonna have David Shaw as their coach, and they're gonna pretend like that's like a good thing, and they're gonna give him another $1 million.
It's hard to say that it's not. Like Stanford's in such a weird position that like maybe he's the best that they can hope for in order to navigate their bureaucracy. Although if like really the best thing would be for Stanford to like become, if they wanted to become a football power, the first thing they should do is change their bureaucracy so that they can be a football power, and then they should fire David Shaw and get a real coach. But if they're not going to do the first, they probably shouldn't do the second.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who cares? We're probably not even going to be in a conference with it. Well, no, we'll probably still, even if we're going to the Big Ten. Who knows? Stanford could still be part of that, especially with like the Notre Dame thing. Like, it could very well be part of that. That's fun. Who cares? Anyways, so you got that one by backing the card there. And then Oregon State versus Colorado. You went with Colorado because you were
Did I?
It. Yeah, Colorado, you
Shit.
chose them because you thought, hey, they got their first win of the season. Maybe they're a rally. Oregon State still, like checking things out at quarterback. Interesting things going on there. Oregon State freaking dominated. I did not watch this game. I straight up took a nap during this game. 42-9. Holy hell, Oregon State. I mean, Jonathan Smith is a good freaking coach, man. That's all I got to say. And Colorado is a bad team that's kind of a zombie right now.
So weird. They were so good just not that long ago.
Colorado? Well, during
Right?
like the COVID season, they had a really good season. Like they got Coach of the Year for Carl or Pac-12 Coach of the Year, I believe.
Interesting.
For Carl
I mean,
Terrell.
they won the South in 2016.
They did great. I mean, they were organized in a really disorganized time, and so they deserve all that credit. And I was definitely rooting for him.
This is,
yeah.
honestly, I think the bigger takeaway from this is like it was 42-9 for Oregon State, and so it's like, yay, blowout. But like Colorado is so bad that actually, if this is sort of like Oregon State should have killed them more. It was only 21-3 at halftime. Like their Oregon State's very first play, the quarterback fumbles the ball. They get 2 touchdowns, in the next 2 drives, but it takes them like 20 plays to do it. Like it takes a ton of time for them to move against the Colorado defense. They punted, during the first half. Like basically a lot of time was coming off the clock when Oregon State was possessing the ball. And then also they were letting Colorado get some first downs. This was a game given the, where these two teams are at, that like Oregon State should have had this at like 35-3 at halftime. And instead they were sort of like, they still had to play some football into the third quarter, which like, I know how perverse that sounds, but like in a 42-9 win, but I sort of came out of it thinking even less of the Beavers than I did before.
As my girlfriend likes to say, they should have been putting up basketball numbers.
So I went with Oregon State, and I got that one right, big time. Don't go with Colorado. I'm telling you now, Aaron, just stop picking Colorado. I steered you wrong that 1 week, but from now on, just don't choose Colorado anymore.
Okay, I won't.
Or do whatever you want. I don't care. And
Maybe
then the
I
final
will. Depends
game
on who
here,
you pick.
This was a good one because like Cal is coming on.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't depend on who you pick.
Good.
You should always pick against Colorado.
Okay,
the rest of their schedule does not have a winnable game.
Yeah. But I mean, we're also talking about the team that they beat, Cal, who also, was the team that Arizona beat in their like 1-win season, or was it 2? I forget. No, it was 1. But Cal,
no, it was 1.
Yeah, is willing to give those teams a little boost. So they're going against Washington, who lost against ASU. That was a tough one. Like after being like rocketed up with that Michigan State win, which kind of means not as much at all anymore. Washington kind of fell down. Like their offense is still the power of the team. Their defense is definitely a big.
And it's not even their whole offense; it's just their passing offense. They do one quadrant of football well,
that is very
which
true.
Is their passing offense, which makes them like literally almost every other Pac-12 team. They do one quadrant of football acceptably.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean this is the Cal Washington game. This game is always pretty insane, pretty cursed. It was at Cal. That kind of matters, I guess. I mean, you don't get the Washington home crowd. That's what it matters.
I mean, Marshawn Lynch specifically called out the crowd for being too thin the sideline while he was being honored. And used profanity to do so, which was great.
It was so good. He said something like, I'm looking at like these motherfuckers. Oh, like he's mid-interview, he's like, oh, and then later, so he's like in that same interview, he's like, and so he just kind of like goes off with it. But later he's like, and I can't believe this shit. Like he says shit.
Yeah, and I remember Tiffany Haddish was interviewing. She's like, I got a dip. Like,
it's so
I can't be part of this anymore.
So funny. I love it.
I love that man.
He's so good. I hope don't drink and drive anymore, Marshawn, but I personally forgive you. Don't do that anymore. I love you.
I was
continue to be a clown.
I liked that that there were several plays while they were talking to Marshawn Lynch or speculating that he might get in the cart and drive it around, that they were not showing or talking about the football game, which meant there were plays that I don't have to watch for this god awful game, and I didn't have to listen to Rod Gilmore and what's his name, the guy who looks like a puppet come to life, Dave Fleming, who scares the hell out of me. Like, his face does not register as a face in my brain. Yeah, so I didn't have to listen to them, and instead got to listen to Marshawn Lynch, and I didn't have to watch Cal versus Washington. I instead got to watch Marshawn Lynch. I was like, this is win, 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 win. Like,
yeah, he's great. I love him. And he did get in the back of the cart. They basically won't. It's bad timing to have him driving crazily around the field, probably is what they were thinking, honestly.
Hey.
What?
Dave Fleming looks fine.
Okay, well, hot take from Aaron, maybe. That he looks fine.
No, he doesn't. He looks like a carved doll that came to life.
Cal somehow almost won.
I believe
this
it's
game.
CGI.
All right.
Cal was in
Yes, he
this
looks like
game
CGI from that horrible Winter Train movie that Tom Hanks was in.
Yeah.
Oh,
That gave
Polar
everybody
Express. Polar
yeah,
Express.
that gave
by
everybody
Robert
the
Zemeckis.
uncanny valley heebie-jeebies. Like, that's what he does to me.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's you nailed
That
it.
I'll agree with.
Cal almost won this game, which is embarrassing as hell. Or they were in this game.
They were in a position late in the game where if they could make one throw and tie the game and go to overtime, but then they failed. So that didn't happen.
They failed. Yes. And I believe Washington actually was able to get to Plummer quite a few times late in the game. It seems like
because Cal's
really
offensive line is just like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible.
Greatwood came back though for a week or whatever.
Yeah, he it did not seem to. I mean, honestly, this was another game where the fact that Cal put up 21 points against Washington is a huge indictment of Washington. Like the fact that Washington only, they would drive the ball, but then they too, their first 3 possessions are 3 different field goal attempts, and one of them is missed. And then their next 2 possessions are a punt and a turnover on downs. They didn't, it was basically empty possessions for them until the first drive that they got in the third quarter. I have to do film study on this game. That's my project this week, because I'm otherwise all caught up on Cal, and Cal is Oregon's next opponent, and I am not looking forward to it at all. And it went down to the wire, as we just said. So
Cal none of it's garbage time.
Yeah, so I don't get to exclude hardly any of this as garbage time. Yeah, man.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Aaron, though.
My way.
You chose correct. You chose Washington. So this week you did outperform me, which gets you a little bit closer, because now I've got 41 and you've got 36.
Right.
And there are 5 games on the docket this week.
All right. I can tie this baby up.
So we got to pick. Yeah, of course. And we'll have to do that in our most favorite segment.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, Aaron. Don't pick all against him, because that's how you get deeper in the hole. Make wise picks.
Here we go.
Well, we'll see.
The picks. That is right. The picks, and I had the schedule up, and it is now not up on my phone.
I have to harness the universe real quick.
Yeah, do it. Come on. You got seconds. So
okay.
Do you got it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So here we go on a
present.
Thursday game. This seems like some chaos will be added to this.
There's a strong chaos possibility for this game.
Yeah. Speaking of chaos, I need to add the music. Number 14, Utah. Number 14, Utah. Really? Okay. Number 14, Utah at Washington State. That is another chaos element. The Palouse. Oh, my goodness. So the Cougs could really make something out of themselves here. They're got a 4-3 record. Utah 5-2 overall. Utah desperately needs to win this, or otherwise they are out of the Pac-12 race. I gotta go with the Utes here. I'm not thinking this is going to be an upset. Mainly because I don't think Cam Ward's going to have enough to keep up with Utah's offense. And I think Utah's offense is going to be able to score enough, probably just through bullying them around.
I don't know. It's hard to bully Washington State's defense. They arguably, by certain metrics, have the best defense in the league.
Who would you say, if you had to choose, has the best defense in the league?
I mean, if we're talking about the stats that we should talk about, then the answer is Oregon. But nobody speaks in those terms except for me, so no one's going to believe me when I say that. So
I get you.
Well, obviously, I'm going with Washington State.
You're going with Wazoo.
It's an apparent and obvious win. They'll be at home. It's on a weird day. It's guaranteed win.
Okay.
I'm with Aaron. This is my wacky pick. I know I didn't make one last week, but
this
yeah.
Oh yeah, you didn't. Sorry.
Well, because last week it just looked like gross chalk, and that's exactly what happened. But this one, I am not guaranteeing this is happening. I'm not playing the same game as you guys, but watch out for this game to be weird and Wazoo to be a lot closer than you think it's going to be. And Utah's going to try to run the ball against them a million times because when Kyle Whittingham thinks he can do that, he always tries. But then I suspected he's not going to be able to. And I think that Diane Handley's actually a pretty good matchup against Dalton Kincaid. I think that Utah's going to be in a real dogfight with Wazoo at night on the Palouse. It's going to be cold, which I guess doesn't bother Utah that much, but it sometimes affects the throwing game because quarterbacks can't wear gloves. I
got one word: fog.
Oh, you're calling fog on the Palouse?
Calling fog.
Ooh, if I see fog, I'm going to freak out, dude. That's going to be great. And there you have it. That is Hyth's wacky pick of the week.
Wow, that's the drop, huh?
Guaranteed money. Bet. Whoa. Life savings. Jackpot.
None of those things are true, listener.
Cash out your savings. Okay. Oregon, number 8 Oregon at California. There will not be a home field advantage. I'm gonna straight up say that. I'm gonna bet there could be an earthquake. There could be an earthquake. There could be fog, a dimensional fog, just like when we lost the Platte many years ago. I think there's going to be more Duck fans than Golden Bear fans.
Strong possibility.
In the stands, and I think this is going to be an easy win. I think the second half will be garbage time, honestly.
If it's not, Oregon's screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I think. Aaron, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Cal.
No way!
Just kidding. I'm going with Oregon, of course.
Okay. I mean, I would have loved it, but that was funny. Number 10 USC at Arizona. That's actually pretty intriguing. I've got the lead, so I just want to go with the whatever top. Did I just say a top 10 team or what?
Yes, they're tied with Wake Forest for 10.
Wow.
Yeah, it was weird.
I have not paid any attention to Wake Forest. That's amazing. I had no idea. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the safer bet. That being said, if I had to choose an upset this week, maybe I would go with USC or Arizona over USC. I don't know.
So who are you picking?
USC.
Okay, well, Hyth did say that USC would be who we probably face at the end in the championship. So that means they have to be on the road to there, which means they have to win this. So maybe there's some pressure there that we're not putting into effect. Arizona is pretty loose. I don't dislike them anymore. I'm going with the Zona. I'm going to go with Arizona.
I hope you're right. I
think it's the second most likely upset possibility of the week.
Honestly, you never know, and it's like.
I don't think that USC's pass defense is that good, and I think that Arizona's going to be able to take advantage of it. And if they could just not throw interceptions, which, USC didn't get any interceptions against Utah. That streak may be over. The Arizona could actually move the ball pretty effectively against USC. I mean, the problem is that Arizona can't stop the run at all, and USC has Travis Dye, so this one's probably going to go that way. But
maybe Travis Dye fumbles the ball.
Oh boy,
Arizona, 3 recoveries, 1 off a fumble, 2 off interceptions.
Wow,
one of those will be a pick 6.
Whoa! You track these side bets that.
Yeah, I'll do this. I'm
well, I mean, his one was that or last week was that the football was going to explode on a special teams kick, and metaphorically there was that onside, which was kind of explosive.
Exploded.
It kind of exploded the game.
Whoa!
I'm saying you should write these down, man.
Predicts.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a lot like Nostradamus. We're like, well, if you interpret it with hindsight, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Nostradamus, not Confucius.
I like it.
Schroeder-Damus.
And we got Arizona State at Colorado. Aaron, have you learned your lesson? Because I know what I'm doing.
You have to pick first.
Even though Arizona State, I mean, they bad, I still think that this team with an interim coach is better than the other team with the interim coach. I'm going with Arizona State.
Yeah, this is the interim off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Arizona State and who?
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. I'm not supposed to pick them. Arizona State, though, is bad.
Colorado beat Cal. That's something.
At home, which this game is. This game's in Folsom Field.
And you're going with Arizona State?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta back the Buffmen, baby. I love them too much.
I hope you're right.
I could see it happening.
Completely.
I could kind of see it happening.
And it's only gonna be because of luck that they win.
Okay.
They'll look like an amazing team somehow. But it'll be like it'll be nothing that is their own doing.
I love it. And then, okay, so one of these teams coming off a win, one of these teams coming off a loss. Stanford at number 12, UCLA. I think UCLA is actually going to blow the doors off this one. Even though Stanford's having a little bit of a comeback, I think UCLA is still a very efficient offense. And that'll be basically the end there.
Look, we popped the potato bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing but Chirps Kelly from here on out. He's crickets, baby. I'm going Stanford, ride or die.
Oh, man. Hythloday tells you
I have to go against
load.
UCLA. Chirp Kelly is my nemesis. There's no way I'm ever going to vote for him this year.
Everyone but the Oregon Cal game, and you even joked about choosing Cal. You chose the underdog. You ready for that?
I mean, if he's
I'm ready to take.
If he's right,
this week
then
is going to be filled with magic and mystery. We're talking Halloween is around the corner.
I mean, Stanford had UCLA's number for like 8 straight games. Like,
it's possible. I mean, I could see it is the Pac-12. I could see any of those individual games happening. I can't see all of them happening.
Yeah,
but
it's gonna be crazy. The kids are gonna be partying, dude. Don't expect anything on Halloween.
All right,
or expect everything on Halloween.
That was the picks, y'all. Absolutely fantastic round there. Wow, what another amazing episode of the Quack 12 podcast, especially with the guest, our guest Hythloday of Addicted to Quack. Please go read his duck dive of the Oregon UCLA game. Go read the extra little bit of salt that he put on it. It sounds especially tasty. The UCLA haters. And follow us at Quack12 Podcast. Also, help us out. Why don't you go give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts? Yeah. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. Go to Patreon. Give us $5. That's the 3 for 5 deal. That's the 3 for $5 deal that we just came up with that. Do that, and we'll win every game, and we'll go to a national championship, and we'll beat Georgia in the rematch.
Yep.
Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Break. All right. Thanks, Hythloday, for joining the podcast yet again.
It was my pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you guys. Take care.
Absolutely. And Aaron, before we head out, do you have another super specific prediction over Cal?
No, I don't. But I do have some parting words.
Okay.
And I do believe this is a quote from Bo Nix, as heard accidentally on air at the end of the game. Boy, I'm going to get fucked up tonight.
No way. Did you really?
I'm
leave
pretty
that
sure.
mystery. You're pretty sure.
I have it on the DVR. I will find the clip. I think they accidentally had a mic pass pointing at him as they're celebrating. Like there's minutes left and they're just celebrating and having a good time on field. And I'm pretty sure he says, boy, I'm going to get fucked up tonight.
Honestly, he deserves it. Way to go, Bo.
He does.
Absolutely. Okay, well, hey, same goes for all three of us, right? We gotta celebrate this UCLA game. We're all gonna go get fucked up. We'll see you next week. Bye.